Welcome back to Ravers Photos. It's been a weekend, right? I think y'all saw some of the videos yesterday about losing a friend. Sweet, sweet, sweet woman. Cancer is a horrible thing. 42. 3 young boys. A husband of 21 years. You know, and she fought the good fight. She did all she could. She tried all the holistic things. In the end, she did try. Anyways, you know, I guess not to get into that. And then, of course, I saw a friend of mine, a dear friend, who's up there in her years, and she had a stroke, a full dominant side stroke. So she can't move her right side at all, and she can only move her left side, and it's affected her mind, too. So my wife and I went and visited her yesterday. Very sad. You know, I mean, and it makes me grateful for my health and for my wife's health. We don't know when it's going to change, you know what I'm saying? You know, we might not ever grow old. Something might happen. Or we might grow old and have to face issues like a lot of people have to face. Which brings me to The Faith of Elvis, written by Billy Stanley, who I've been having conversations with offline, too. You know, we did a conversation with Billy Stanley. And, yeah, he's going to be on this Thursday as well. So just make sure you 10 a.m., 9, it might even be earlier. It might be 8 a.m. on Thursday, Central Time, that I release the video. But we're going to have another conversation on Wednesday. You know, and, you know, Billy is burying his soul out there. Social media is a very difficult place to bury your soul and tell your story. You know, and I don't even want to say you have to have thick skin. It's not even about that. Sometimes people use the internet as keyboard warriors to try to hurt other people. I am perfectly good in all my videos with everybody asking questions and being curious. Very few people ever get blocked from this channel or any of my channels. You know, you have to be very, very insightful and horrible and call Elvis a PEDO file. Or other stuff that's really, really bad. Or continue to just be non-stop negative. There's a guy that was on here was non-stop negative. And on my other conversations, Derek called him a naysayer. And, he, you know, he wasn't looking for... No answer was ever good enough. That being said, you know, we're here to talk about The Faith of Elvis. To talk about our gratitude today, too. You know what I'm saying? I hope y'all are grateful for where you're at. There are some folks that are watching this that are in a hospital or that are recovering or that are sick. And I'm sorry you're having to face that struggle. There's a community that's behind you. I mean, I think this community overall, overwhelmingly, is a very kind, loving community. They love Elvis. And I think that everybody loves each other in this community for the most part. Before I get to reading this, thank you to all of y'all that have been sending me emails. I always talk about, you know, the research that a lot of y'all do, you know. And, you know, if it wasn't for you subscribers, I wouldn't be having a conversation with Billy. I would have been reading a book, for sure. I'd already got that book, and I wouldn't be having a conversation with Derry Matera if it wasn't for you subscribers. But... you know, some others that are messaging me is, you know, is Tammy Lynn has been messaging me. I don't want to say her last name because she might not want the last name. Sending me a lot of stuff. Connie Ames, Charla from Texas has been sending me a lot of stuff and some research too. Linda Terry, Melissa Dewsnap. Sent me a very, very, very nice message and very kind. I mean, the thing is, this channel, I mean, we know that there's good people in the world, right? We also know that there's people that want to sow seeds of discord and discontent just for the sake of doing it. But y'all amaze me every day. Your kindness, you know, and those of you going over to Elvis and the Legends and saying kind things about me singing, that's sweet. You don't have to, but I greatly appreciate that as well. let's get into reading here, okay? Because we are going to be talking with, it's funny, Billy was like, next week we'll talk about the book. Well, I'm sure we will. I mean, just talking to Billy is really kind of talking about this book. But I believe we are in chapter 8, called He Touched Me. All right? So all of these chapters, as Billy explained, are famous gospel songs that Elvis recorded, or most of them, at least the first 9. So He Touched Me is chapter 8. Let's get to reading. Nearly every facet of Elvis's life has been explored and scrutinized in detail over the last few decades. The music, the movies, the fame, the controversies, the awards. Everyone knows about these. But one of the few areas many people have not heard is Elvis's generosity. Now, y'all know I talk about that all the time, and I've got all these stories, and I'm sure some of them are probably going to be in this book. And those that are not, I'll probably talk to Billy about them. Hey, Billy, did you hear this? Did you know this? Because no matter how much he was around Elvis, there's going to be things that he didn't pick up, because Elvis didn't always talk about his generosity. He didn't talk about the things he did for people. I saw Elvis up close, Billy said, and personal for 17 years, and I can tell you he's the most generous person I ever knew. Vernon once told me something about Elvis that I never knew. He said that when Elvis was a little boy, he would sometimes give his toys to the other children who didn't have anything. His parents even scolded him a couple times because they'd bought a toy for Elvis, and he turned around and he gave it away to someone less fortunate. This didn't come as a surprise to me, because that's exactly what Elvis was like as an adult. Over the years, a lot of people have asked me, where did Elvis get his sense of generosity? Well, Elvis remembered what it was like being poor. He wanted to do everything possible to help other people avoid it. I remember talking with him about his love of giving one time. He said, Billy, it's not a sin to be rich, but it's a sin to love money. That's why I give so much of myself and what I have. Then he showed me Proverbs 11:25, which says, a generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. Giving to others made Elvis feel happy and fulfilled. He loved the sensation of helping others. He even wrote in his Bible, if one can't give what they have and share, then they will always be empty. Elvis was more of a giver than a receiver. You might even say he was born to give. He never looked to any other star, athlete, or celebrity for how to live. He simply looked to Jesus. More than anything, Elvis wanted to be like Jesus in his actions, especially in the way he was generous. Billy says, of all the memories I have of Elvis, this is one of my favorites. One day Elvis said, let's go for a ride, Billy. Whenever Elvis said that, I would always grab his wallet and put it in my briefcase. Now, the wallet had so much cash in it that you couldn't fold it. So my briefcase was the natural place to store it. As we were driving, Elvis saw a man who looked like he was down on his luck. Well, Elvis made a U-turn and drove up to the man. Before we got to him, Elvis said, get the money out of my wallet, Billy. Well, I opened the briefcase and I looked at the money and said, how much? All of it. All of it, Elvis said. All of it. Now you have to picture this. Elvis's wallet was so full of money you couldn't bend it. I guess there was about $5,000 in it. So, I don't know if these were $100 bills, $20 bills, or what. I can tell you, I personally had over $10,000 in my wallet at one time before. 2 stacks of $5,000, which are about that. And yeah, you can't fold the wallet. It lays flat. Could have been 10 grand. Could have been 5 grand. Could have been 8 grand. The point being, we're not even talking today's money. Think about that. What would that be? Let's just say this happened in the 70s, right? The 60s, 70s, either way. We're talking what? Let's say if it's $5,000, it's more like 15, at least, maybe 20 grand these days. Definitely at least 10, right? Double. If y'all know in the comments, put it in there, okay? Say, hey, what's $5,000 nowadays in 1965's money or 1975's money? Okay? Do it with 10K as well. It's out there on the internet. You can find it. Love to know. All of it. Now you have to picture this. Elvis's wallet was so full of money you couldn't bend it. I guess there was $5,000 in it. As we pulled up to the man, Elvis told me to hand him the money. I did. And he stuck it between his legs so the man couldn't see it. Elvis rolled his window down and the man was surprised to see the king behind the wheel. Elvis asked, how you doing, sir? Well, my day's a lot better now that I've seen you, Mr. Presley. Please call me Elvis, not Mr. Presley. Then the man started telling how he'd seen all of his movies and at one time had all of his records. Elvis thanked the man and asked again if he was doing okay. The man said, I'm a little down right now, but my luck is going to change soon. Elvis said, it already has. He took the money and reached out to give it to the man. At first he thought Elvis wanted to shake hands. But when he saw the money, he said, I can't take this, Elvis. Please take the money. It's my way of repaying you for watching all those silly movies. Elvis laughed. The man started crying. God bless you. Whew, making me emotional. God bless you, Mr. Presley. Elvis had tears in his eyes. Sir, he's already blessed me. And then he drove off. We drove off. I began to cry also. I looked at Elvis and I said, that's the kindest thing I've ever seen, Elvis. Then Elvis looked at me and said, what good is having money, Billy, if you can't help others with it? That kind of generosity was not unusual for Elvis. It had to have driven Vernon crazy. I'm sorry. I just, thinking about that because like Billy said, and this is not, I've told so many stories about stuff. About the guy that, I think Elvis was with his producer, or one of his producers. And they needed to make a phone call, and they didn't have any change. And Elvis, I think, said, hey, ask that guy there walking by or whatever. Got some change for the phone call. And then he asked the producer guy to, hey, give me that guy's information. I want to thank him, send him a thank you card or something like that. Elvis ended up paying off the guy's mortgage. Can't remember what book that's in. Might have been in the Elvis and Kathy book. There's other stories, which I'm going to keep reading because I don't want to tell a story that Billy tells a story that I'm not aware of in it. But there's a lot. Think about that. Elvis didn't get nothing in return from that guy. The guy wasn't going to do a job for him. The guy wasn't going to go out there and promote him. This may have changed the guy's life completely for the rest of his life. An amount of money like that. Maybe he couldn't afford to pay his mortgage. Maybe, he didn't have a car. He was walking, right? So maybe he got his ducks in a row and his life changed and he had children. And those children's life was because of Elvis. So many factors that lie in this, in your giving and in your actions and your words and all that stuff. And, it's good. Elvis is a good example as any of that generosity. So, all right, so let's go back here. That kind of generosity was not unusual for Elvis. It was completely normal. I remember another time when I was with Elvis at a Cadillac dealership. He saw a couple on the parking lot looking at cars. He asked the salesperson to have them come inside. Then he said to them, you like the car you're looking at? The woman said, no, we've got one already. Then Elvis looked at the husband and said, well, sir, why don't you pick one out? You need one too. Then he bought the car for him. That's, I mean, gosh, I mean, I know that some people go, okay, well, he could have used that money to do something else. And guess what? It was Elvis's money, right? He spread sunshine in the world. And I think that he had to have gotten a kick out of being able to take what God gave him, and share it around and surprise people. Let's play devil's advocate. Let's say that couple was not nice people. No, not really. Maybe they weren't good people. Maybe that act of Elvis's generosity helped them be more kind, more generous. Who knows? All right. So we got a little local coffee company here, and where I'm at, and I'm drinking their coffee. I'm not going to disclose their name because that would kind of be advertising, and I don't think I'm allowed to do that. I think you have to disclose something like that on the channel, but support your local companies, right? Support them. Your local little coffee places. Not that I don't drink Starbucks. Lord knows, my wife loves Starbucks, and I'll get a Starbucks sometimes because I don't want her to feel bad that she's the only one. But she bought me a coffee this morning, so it's very sweet of her. I was up until 1:30 in the morning talking to the host of that Facebook page that went all sideways and ballistic and all that stuff, and we talked for an hour and a half, and it was a reasonable conversation, which is good. It's really all I ask for is reasonable conversations, and I don't know. I think she said she was going to delete the post, but if she does, she does. If she doesn't, she doesn't. Back to the book. Billy said, I remember talking with him about his love of giving one time. He said, oh, hold on a second. I went backwards. Sorry. Moving forward, right? One time, I took a date with me to Graceland, and it just happened to be the day Elvis decided to buy cars for everybody. He had just given his cousin Patsy a Grand Prix to replace the Chevy Impala that she'd been driving. Elvis looked at my date and said, what are you driving? She said, I don't have a car. Elvis motioned to Patsy and said, take her car. I told him, this is only my first date with her. He said, maybe it'll help you. After that, every time the girl saw Elvis, all she could do was say, thank you, Elvis. Thank you, thank you. She absolutely loved that Impala. He'd say, thank you, sweetie. It's no big deal. I'm just glad you liked it. Elvis didn't only give to individuals. He also donated to thousands of charities during his lifetime. One year, the city of Memphis gave him a large wooden plaque to commemorate his contributions to more than 50 area charities. There's some publicity photos of him in the 1960s writing checks to various charities. However, he wasn't comfortable with the attention related to giving, which is why you never again saw photos of him writing checks. He just didn't like to be put in the spotlight for something he thought everybody should be doing. One of the Bible verses that bothered Elvis was Matthew 19:24. Jesus said, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of heaven. He talked about this verse enough that I knew he was concerned about his heart being right. Elvis was a rich man, to be sure. But his heart was always in the right place. His generosity is world famous, and he gave a large percentage of his money away. Money didn't mean much to Elvis. It was just a means to make other people happy. Every day he looked for a way to give of himself and make people's lives better. In 2 Corinthians 9:7, the apostle said, God loves a cheerful giver. If that's true, God must have really loved Elvis. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful chapter. So, in addition to that, we all think, okay, Elvis had a lot of money. He gave away a lot of money, right? I had to sip it off the top there. It'd spill on me. Here's the truth of the matter. Elvis Presley was the highest paid entertainer, right? Colonel got 25% of the money up to 1967-ish. Then he got 50%. So let's take 100%. Let's just say after 67, 100% of Elvis's gross here. Colonel took 50%, so that leaves 50% of it. So let's just take say $1,000, right? $1,000. Well, Elvis has $500. Well, what are the normal taxes for y'all and me today on $1,000? About 30%. About 30%. 25 to 30%. So out of the 1,000 turns into 500. 10% of 500 is 50. And you got 20% is 100, and 30% is 300. So take 300 out of 500. You have 200 left. So out of every $1,000, you have 200 left. That's in today's standard. Elvis tax bracket in the 60s and 70s was 70, 80, 90%. I mean, I think I did a video a long time ago on how much money. So let's just say this. Let's just say his tax bracket was 70%. I know it was much, much higher up until the last, I think, 4 or 5 years of his life, maybe 6 years, maybe less. So let's just say he was paying 90% in taxes. That's an ungodly number. $1,000. $500 because Parker took $500. What's 90% in taxes? Just keep going by 10%. And you go 10% times 9. So 10% would be 50 out of that 500. Times 9 is 450. Left him with $50 out of $1,000. Elvis had a lot of money, folks. He made a lot of money. But he gave almost all of it away. And that's the truth. Yeah, he had money. Sure, he had $5 million in the bank. When he passed away. He just got done doing tours. He had the TV special, which I think Billy said he had about $15 million in the bank the year after he passed. Elvis's upkeep at Graceland, that somebody said, was about $500,000 a month. All of his staff, everything, not just Graceland. So yes, just that alone. So let's just say he had $5 million in the bank. Well, at a high tax bracket, we know that he made quite a bit of money, right? But how quick does that go away at $500,000 a month for upkeep, for salaries for people? Pretty quickly. Goes down, and then you're giving away stuff. You're giving houses away, cars away, cash away. It's not the first time I've seen the whole thing with Elvis always having money on him. A lot of people in the Elvis world say, oh, Elvis was a dummy. Not a dummy. He didn't know how to live life. He didn't know how to do this, didn't know how to do that. Elvis knew how. Elvis had cash. Nobody with that kind of money doesn't have cash. Yeah, he's got credit cards, checks, all that other stuff that you should have. But his generosity dictated. He can't give somebody an American Express card. He can't hand somebody on the street a check. He would hand them cash. He would give people cash. Anyhow, wonderful chapter. Please tune in Thursday for the new conversation with Billy Stanley. I can say that I really enjoy talking to him. He and I talked for about an hour the other night, just on the phone, just talking. Guy has an incredible heart for Elvis, and an incredible heart too. I mean, so please continue to support him. If you got questions, try to be respectful. Even if you don't necessarily, maybe you didn't like Billy. Maybe you still don't like Billy. Maybe you suspect this or that. It's your right to suspect stuff, but try to be respectful about it if you can. All right, TCB TLC. This is Rare Was Photos. Thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful week. It's early Monday morning. I'm about to take my son to school. Like I said, I was up to about 1:30 in the morning. So about 3-4 hours of sleep. All right, till next time.